Hi, and welcome to SpondyCast, where we bring together the best medical minds, thought leaders, scientists, patients, and caregivers to inform and inspire the spondylitis community. I'm your host, Jill Miller, living my best spa life, knowing that how we meet today has the power to change everything going forward. Please note that the information provided in this podcast should not be considered medical advice. We do encourage all listeners to consult their healthcare professionals for medical concerns. Thank you for listening, and we hope you find our discussion today enlightening. Hi, and welcome to SpondyCast. Today, we are going to talk about redefining strength with Jenifer Forbes, life after elite rowing, spondyloarthritis, and the comorbidities associated with it. Jen is a former Team USA rower, nonprofit executive, and environmental scientist whose career has been shaped by resilience, advocacy, and purpose. She's a lifelong athlete who grew up in Baltimore City. Jen navigated years of chronic pain and injury long before receiving her ankylosing spondylitis diagnosis. She carries the HLA-B27 gene and was first hit by a car at age 8, an event that marked the beginning of decades-long journey of physical and emotional healing. Throughout her elite rowing career, Jen overcame multiple comorbidities, including disc injuries, colitis, fatigue, pushing through Olympic training trials with grit and grace. She represented the U.S. at the 2019 Pan American Games and later served as executive director of the Cleveland Rowing Foundation, where she revitalized programming, increased revenue, and led major events with multi-million-dollar economic impact. She's also a survivor of childhood trauma and sexual violence, experiences that deepen her commitment to honest storytelling and trauma-informed advocacy. Today, she is building a platform that centers on healing, dignity, and equity, using her voice to support others navigating invisible illness. Whether she's mentoring retired athletes, leading grassroots work, or coaching others through uncertainty, she shows up with integrity and heart, and her mission is to build something lasting, not just for herself, but for anyone who's ever felt like their story didn't have a place. She currently lives in Baltimore and is working on her next chapter, one that combines storytelling, speaking, and systemic change. Jen, we're going to have so much fun. I'm so excited to welcome you to
Yay.
SpondyCast. Thank you for
Thank you
joining
so
us.
much. Yes, of course. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. So thank you for making the time to speak.
Yeah, I'm fangirling because, as we talked about in the green room, I pretend like I row on the concept too at the gym, uh, and I would can't wait to dig into this because I think it's a great thing for a lot of us. But can you tell us a little bit about your diagnosis and what life was like before?
Yeah, and man, it I always knew that something was up, and I actually I'm actually, when I was looking at these interview questions before, I'm like, how do I want to tell this story? I used to play a ton of sports growing up. Basketball, volleyball, soccer, ballet. I started rowing in high school, but I played AAU basketball for a while, and I played on like three different basketball teams, travel teams in high school and middle school. And I actually even joked with one of the kids on my team, because we were kids at the time, like I have arthritis. Like we even said it like, old manny type voice, and we joked about it. Like 20 years ago, I joked about this. Um, and I always thought like, okay, this is just a result of my car accident. I had fallen down the stairs a lot, like, or well, twice actually, and really hurt my back as a kid. I think two times. We grew up in this like old turn of the century house and that had wooden stairs, and I didn't really understand the concept of not wearing socks on those floors. So I just sort of chalked it up as an orthopedic thing. But yeah, I to fast forward into my athletic career, I think there were benefits to that. I in the sense that I didn't know that anything was like quote unquote wrong with me. And so I took a lot of responsibility. Basically, I took a lot of time to just try to figure out how I could improve myself as an athlete. And as many times as I had, banging my head against the wall, like, why is this so hard? Like, why am I getting injured so much? Like, am I not sleeping enough? Am I not doing, I was constantly asking all of these questions, which most athletes do, of like, what can I do to, in the sport of rowing is We ask ourselves often, does it make the boat go faster? And I was, when I was in the sport, when I finally did transition to rowing, I got my scholarship to Northeastern, where I rowed for 4 years, and was gracious and grateful to receive a full athletic scholarship as a Division I athlete. Um, you know, I struggled. Like as soon as I got to Northeastern, I struggled to stay healthy, and I struggled with my knees. They diagnosed me with chondromalacia. I struggled with back pain. I had my first back spasm, severe back spasm in 2010. I remember just like making scones that I had bought from like Marshalls and like mixing them with a spoon and like just standing there like
Yes.
with tears rolling down my face, alone in my apartment, trapped, like so surprised by this really severe sharp pain that I've never experienced before. And that was in 2010. And I just sort of chalked it up to like, okay, earlier that summer I was riding my bike, and unfortunately, an unhoused person ran into me while I was cycling. I had broke my scaphoid, which is a muscle in your, or a bone in your wrist. And I just thought like, oh, I'm unbalanced, like I'm not strong, like I raced earlier that day, like maybe I pulled something. But looking back at the trends, like I'm like, oh, those are all the signs. So before the diagnosis, I had taken put all the pressure on myself. You know what I mean? I lived I had to be very gritty. I was injured a lot. I got hurt a lot. I had bruising. I dealt with like heavy menstrual cycles, like, and I wasn't really sure. And actually, I had really terrible GI problems in college. Actually, was the first time that I started having GI issues.
Yep.
In 2019, and I don't know if the folks that are listening know this. And I don't want to skip over a lot, and I could dive into any of these topics. Um, I think I just have to slow myself down because I've been thinking about this for so long. Like I feel like I know all about this, and I am trying to not gloss over it and remember that some people really do need to hear some of this stuff for the first time. I As an athlete, like I traveled internationally. I traveled to a lot of South American countries. I went to the Philippines for my brother's wedding. It was right before the pandemic. I have a history of trauma. Like there's a concept of like the body doesn't really understand like the difference between psychological and physical stress. And so I also thought like, oh, well, maybe I'm just stressed. Like maybe it's all of this stress, that I'm putting on myself. Or maybe it's I've had like these little GI bugs over the years too, from like foreign countries, and in 2019, it was Christmas. I was visiting home in Baltimore, and I like saw blood on the toilet paper for the first time, and I was terrified. I was like, what is going on? Like, and I had just read Ben Moon's book. Nobody has read this before. It's called Denali. It's about his journey with colon cancer. He's a climber, storyteller, photographer. Denali was his dog. And it's a beautiful story. It's also something on Vimeo. So just shout out to Ben Moon, a very fantastic human being, um, who also used to row at Grand Valley State. But after reading his story, it really inspired me to go get it checked out. Right? Like it was 2019. I had just traveled. I had just done the Pan American Games. Um, I mean, this is such a mess. Like, I feel like there's such a story. That whole year was such a mess. I actually crashed on cross country skis in January of 2019, right after making like qualifying. I was in Rio to qualify for Pan American Games. So I won the qualifier in Rio in 2018. In January of 2019, I was in a cross country ski marathon for fun, right? Just part of our training. And
Yeah.
because I'm in the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont. and I went out way too hard, way too fast. I crashed a bunch of times. I got a concussion. I tore my oh gosh, what was it? My SI ligament, and
Oh,
I
that sounds
I was
horrible.
it was horrible. I was out. I actually got in the plane to California to like for a training trip and with my team, and I got out there and I was like I couldn't sit up, I couldn't stand up, I couldn't row. And they actually I was just in bed the entire training trip, and when I got back, we realized like how serious it was. And so I actually spent the entire winter. I can't like did not compete that's spring, which is common in the elite world. You compete starting in like early spring, and world championships are in like the fall or in like the summer. My gosh, I knew I had been through it before with my 4 years off between like 2013 and 2017, where I was recovering from back surgery. So I was like, I can do this. I can recover from this. I'm training. I'm going to be an athlete at the Pan American Games. So I'm just telling you all this to like say like I was thinking it was all stress, you know.
Yeah,
So
I mean it's
I
like the layers that are
it's very
there.
it's very layered, yeah. And
Yeah.
I was like it's very confusing. So I trained all winter. The only motion I was able to do, which was crazy, I was testing it out in the gym. I could like march in place, and I was like, hiking is a lot like marching in place. And so I got some ski poles, got some instruction from the skiers, and they're like, you could snowshoe all winter. So that's what I did for my training. I just snowshoed in Vermont, up mountains. And when the snow melted, I hiked up mountains. And then I eventually ran up mountains. And that was like my training. And then I won nationals in the single in the summer. And then and everything was going great. I was doing a stuff called prolotherapy in lieu of doing cortisone injections, because I'd gone that route before and I don't trust myself because cortisone makes me feel great. And then I just do way too much. So the prolotherapy was actually a great way for me to just heal, get stronger, and
So
um,
are you still pre-diagnosis here? Or what year was?
this is still pre-diagnosis. This is 2019, and then I had a great race at nationals and then got on the plane less than a month later and had a back spasm on our way to Peru with Team USA. I spent a week
Oh,
in just like in the morning, waking up 4 hours before everybody else, ice cold, like hot shower, stretching, then getting an ice cold pool, which because the pool is outside, and Peru at that time of year, it's winter in Peru, so it was fucking cold. And so I raced, but I like limped across the finish line. I had my coach bring my boat down. My coach brought my boat, my oars. Like I basically crawled into the boat and like could barely warm up on the way to so I did all my warm up like on land, on the treadmill, just walking, and just I can't even say humiliating, but it was really hard. And so so the other thing is that there was like a GI illness going around. There norovirus was growing around. So on top of that, I was exposed to
yeah.
that. So by I'll just fast forward. Basically, everyone that I beat at nationals, a lot of those women were there, and this is no insult to them because everyone at this level is excellent. They beat me and I had beaten them by open water, and in rowing that means like several like a full boat length. The boat is you know tens of feet long. So
Wow.
it was significant, and I was very disappointed. I feel like I let myself down, my team down, my country down, and like all of that work that I had put in, like just it felt like it completely, I took it really hard. And so, and I'm getting emotional because like I'm finally able to talk about it, but it's still really hard. So then, but wait, there's more. So 2019, I could talk about this for hours because it's so layered.
But
2019,
you know what? The
yeah,
fact that you're sharing all of this, and it is painful, right? Like it's emotional. and you have no
Yeah.
idea you're on this roller coaster. Like,
No idea.
okay, I didn't mean to
Yep.
interrupt you, but like, you can get emotional here. This is what we do. We're all in the same
Yeah.
club.
Tears of acceptance.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, uh, so, uh, so yeah, 2019, Christmas is always tough for me. Again, like childhood trauma, like I really trying to, you know, love my family, but it's always hard for me to go home. I'll be honest, and it's not no secret to them either. We're working on it even now, but went
Are
home.
you a Clevelander?
I'm actually from Baltimore, but I did live in Cleveland.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I'm a Clevelander, so I didn't know if it was the same trauma.
Ooh, no, but I started to learn Cleveland drama. I started to learn.
No offense to Cleveland. We're allowed to say it because we lived there, right?
No, yeah, I lived there and I talked to plenty of people who we just shared stories. So I love Cleveland's cool. But yeah, I December, you know, again, I share all of this. Like, I looked down, saw blood, and I was like, "Oh my God!" Like, and I was going to the bathroom, saw blood. I'm like, this is not menstrual blood. This is coming from. We're just going to use adult terms. Like, this is coming from your rectum. This is coming out of your bottom." And I was like, "Okay, this is scary," And I'm very diligent. Like as soon like when I know something's wrong, like I want to figure out like the root of it. And I don't care if other people want to know or not. Like I want to know and I need to know. And so I figured it out and I got scheduled with colonoscopy. I've been called crazy for doing this, but I had my colonoscopy, and my grandmother, who's no longer with me, she inspired me to do this. I did my colonoscopy without any sedation, so I went in and I wanted to like be able to ask the questions and like understand what was going on, and so I wanted to be engaged with that process. I did it once. I don't feel the need to do it ever again. Um, but so 2019, again, mind you, I'm training for the Olympics. I'm trying to make the Olympic team. To put this onto perspective, 2020 should have been the year that we did the Olympics in. So just
Right. You are
this is no
really training.
this is November 2019. Yeah. Yeah. And so I get my colonoscopy, find out, get diagnosed in January 2020. Go on our training trip. I go on the AIP diet. So for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's the autoimmune protocol diet, which basically like it's a elimination diet that I think is great for figuring out like what your trigger foods are. Um, and I had also done like a ton of allergy testing in the fall. Everything showed up on that because I had colitis, like my gut was like leaking. And so everything was showing up as an allergy. Like it was just showing up in my bloodstream, is what I learned later. But so I'm like, okay, I have colitis. I started taking the rectal suppositories. It kind of helped. I lost like 15 pounds over the course of a few months which is not great for when you're trying to, you know, my coach
No,
yelled
you
at me.
need you're like this point you're wasting muscle, right?
Yeah, and I should be like, yeah, so I feel okay. Like we're doing our best. We go down to Florida as we often do, because we did a pre Olympic trials training camp in Inverness, Florida. And that's I think March 17th was actually like the day when things were starting to happen with COVID.
Oh yeah, I remember
And
that
we were
day.
like very like all of Florida was like still celebrating. They were like, yeah, St. Patrick's Day, and we're like, has nobody told them that that COVID is happening? So actually, we got the call from World Rowing. We were just refreshing our phones like crazy. World Rowing canceled Olympic trials, and they said we're not going to do nothing. Everything and the Olympics is actually going to be postponed. So as soon as we got the notification, we drove from Florida to the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont and hunkered down and started our whole athlete bubble. So that's that. let's just pretend like COVID didn't happen. Like, let's fast forward through COVID, Olympic trials happens again. And I am just, I'm competing back in Florida. I, realized I needed to like just be dialed. I have a terrible performance in the singles trials. I'm just completely gassed. I had no energy. And that was devastating, but I was still fast. So I got invited to doubles trials in Princeton. So went up to Princeton, started training, made the double, and then when you when you make a boat in like camp setting, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes right now, then you have to go to the trials to actually like so you make the boat in the camp, and then you like have to make the boat has to race other boats that are coming to trials, and then if you win, then you get to be the Olympic double. And so my partner and I, Sophia Vitas, she actually is a Olympian now. She went to the Paris Olympics with her partner Christy Wagner, two phenomenal women, two really phenomenal scullers. We we did not win. We were both struggling the entire time with she broke her rib. Like I had multiple back issues. So we didn't win the double trials, but we went on to quad trials. So again, I don't know if anyone knows about rowing, but just a quick lesson. Rowing is the umbrella, and then underneath rowing, you have two disciplines. You have sweep rowing, which each rower has one oar in their hand, and that's like usually the bigger boats of 8 people in a coxswain, like that tiny person that steers the boat. 8 for pair, and then sculling, each person has one person has one oar in each hand, so you are more of a bilateral movement. And I moved into sculling after college because I had back surgery in 2013 after I blew out 3 discs after I moved to Oklahoma City and tried to like play with the Olympians, and like was getting really fast but like blew out my discs. So I had took 4 years off, took 4 years to recover, and then came back in 2017.
Wow.
um so um so let's see. So now we're like 2021, didn't make the double, went on to quad trials, and we had a lot of really fast women in that group. We had Ellen Tomac and Meg O'Leary, who were the previous Olympics like women's double. And we were competing with them. I was competing with women that I had looked up to when I was, just a little sprout. Little's never really been anything that I've been called because I'm 6'3" and 185 pounds. So it's that's not really something that everyone's called me. But yeah, when I was a younger rower,
Yes.
I looked up to these women. So now I was rowing with them. Unfortunately, while in training, I was having massive colitis flare ups. Like I was having blood and mucus in my stool while I was trying to make the Olympic team. Yeah.
So they, after your GI incident, after the blood,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
diagnosed you with colitis. Was that the
Yeah, so
diagnosis?
so they diagnosed you with ulcerative proctitis. So I'm not sure if listeners know, like that's probably the best case scenario because I found it so early.
Mm-hmm.
It was not spread into my entire colon, so that's called pancolitis, um,
Okay.
which is something that it can progress to. And also, folks with colitis are more susceptible to cancer. So I was like, figure it out quick. Get
Right.
get into remission ASAP. Um, so yeah, that's what that was. Actually, I'm gonna say my OG, my girl, like Taylor Getzinger, another girl, another woman on the national team. She also had colitis or IBS, and she had the same suppository prescription as me. And I don't know, she's probably not going to get in trouble for this, but like I couldn't get my prescription. I was on Medicaid in Vermont, and I was in Princeton training in Princeton, and I couldn't get my meds shipped to me in Princeton. So she was like, "Go pick up mine. It's the same prescription." So she like let me you I don't know, maybe we're saying something illegal here, but like this is the level of like like these women, like we know how hard it is, and so we're like looking out for each other however we can. It's like Like we literally had the same exact prescription. We were just talking about like, it's kind of crude, but it's like, oh my God, your butt is bleeding too. Cool. How can I help you? And it's like, you're just trying to get through
Yeah.
whatever you can get through. And so these women are just like, we're looking out for each other. It's like, may the best woman win, you know? And so we're
Right.
really trying to like give everybody, like, that's where the sportsmanship and teamwork comes in, because I mean, I
Yeah.
have so much love.
So what were, I mean, was this, were the doctors along the way explaining away the pain as part of
No,
colitis, or
no,
like, I mean,
no.
were you the, was it like, you're nuts, this is stress, you're overdoing it?
No, my doctor, I was really frustrated. It was the first time I'd been introduced to this, so I was a little bit distant from him. I was frustrated because as an athlete, like to have a doctor say, even in jest, it wasn't funny for me. He had mentioned, and I know that this is true, but it was annoying to me at the time. He's like, well, you know, some people find that smoking cigarettes like helps calm their IBS down, and I was like, It's more for Crohn's patients." I was just like, why are you telling me this? This is not, and like also telling
What?
me that diet has nothing to. So I was just really annoyed. I was very frustrated, so I felt very much like I had to do my own research and like stop wasting time,
Yeah. And
and like I had to focus.
were you seeing an orthopedic for the joint pain?
I was, it's complicated. So yes, but also because I was on Vermont Medicaid, I couldn't
Yeah,
see anybody like no. So I utilized, so the national team had physical therapists that we were
sure.
able to see. Mark Nowak, which by the way is the best PT I've ever been to. He's based out of Princeton. But just like the best, hardest working PT I've ever worked with in my entire life. You know, he did his very best keeping the national team women together. He had a very hard job. But in while I was training, I also found that during my initial recovery from my surgery, cupping worked, needling worked, acupuncture worked. So I was actually paying out of pocket, you know, $100 plus a pop to like go and see these physicians. And actually, there was this Russian guy who was like, that my friend Taylor that I was telling you about, she told me about. She texted me his number. She's like, I know a guy. And he would work on athletes, and he like had a very different technique. So he would do body work on us. He helped me. And he didn't charge. He's like, I charge, you know, I charge the Princeton people, you know, like a certain rate. Wink, wink, nod, nod. And like, I charge the athletes whatever they can pay. And if they can pay nothing, then they pay nothing. And I was very, you know, those are the angels that have like really helped. And mind you, we are also staying in host family situations at this point, so we also have to navigate the stress of like
Oh,
living in somebody else's house that we don't know as adults. So you just like go home, try to nap, try to get your food, try to be like a fly in the wall, like wake up, eat, like everything is dialed, go to practice, survive, you know, try to not have a back spasm, you know, stay focused, do the best you can, and then, you know, come home. So all throughout this quad trial, I had two really bad back spasm, one where I was out for an entire week, and for some reason, like they let me come back. Like I knew I was a good athlete. I just, it really, really, really was hard to be in that position. And like while as in the time I eventually got cut, I was the last person cut from the team from the quad, and I felt so betrayed. I felt all of the arrays of emotion, uh, you know, and I took my drive. I drove around the mall, like in Princeton. I just was in my car, just driving in circles, just like trying to process it after I got cut. And eventually, I was like, "Are we allowed to swear on this podcast?" I just said F it. You know what? I said,
yeah.
I'm going. So I went back to the boathouse where the national team coaches are. I said, I have one more chance at this. I have one more chance at this. There was a pair trial uh, happening in at the end of the week. I don't remember what day it was, but I had a few days to get ready. And mind you, we're still in like COVID time. So we had to do all the protocols, all of the like testing and proving and yeah. Again, mind you, Princeton, New Jersey. I went to the national team coaches, Tom and Laurel, excuse me, and I said, do you have a boat that I can borrow? Do you have oars? If I can get a pair partner, can we race? Can we do the pair? And again, going back to the types of rowing, I had been sculling for the last 5 years. Like I had not done any sweep rowing. The boats are very different. So it takes a while to like get used to your training partner, get used to the feel of the boat. I called the best pair rower that I knew that wasn't training, Erin Boxberger. She was in Vermont. She was my teammate on the Green Racing Project, which is my club in Vermont. Again, Northeast Vermont, 40 minutes south of the Canadian border, like up there, up there. And so I said, do you want to race in the pair with me at Olympic trials, like the last chance for Tokyo? And she was like, fuck yeah, let's go. Sorry. So she drove, she borrowed another teammate's car, Christine Cavallo, lightweight rower, another amazing friend and teammate of mine, who's currently training in coastal right now, coastal rowing. Borrowed her car, got in the car, drove down, got everything she needed, did her COVID test. Like we got in the boat, we practiced once. And then we raced the next day. Maybe it was twice.
Oh my
But
God.
like
So this is
this is not
summer,
this is
fall 21.
this is summer of 21.
Okay.
And so yeah, we I think we came in third. We had a great first the race is 2,000 meters. So up until the last 500, we had a great first 1,500, like rating at a 37. Like I was stroking, she was in bow. It's, I think we had 4 or 5 boats in the race, of like of Olympians, of national team members, like really fast women. Um, we were in it for a while and then we lost pace. So that was like the end of that. Um, and I'll move through it a little bit quicker here. Like again, done with that. Tokyo's off the map. Um, I had a one opportunity to race at World Championships with a partner. We won nationals in the double. We're slated to go to China for non-Olympic World Championships. They canceled it because of COVID. So that was frustrating, but we're like, okay, on to the next. Another doubles partner of mine from she's another Baltimore gal, Mickey, who was a good friend of mine, another Green Racing Project teammate of mine. We hopped in a boat. She came up from Baltimore, hopped in a boat in Vermont. We're training for Royal Henley in London, or in England rather. And somebody in our group got COVID, so we didn't go. So that was the end of 2021. So I kind of went through like a breakdown period. I had a really hard several months. I took time off, time to heal, time to recover, and then fast forward to the spring of 22. I'd done a lot of stuff. I raced in France with some friends. I trained out there, was trying to get my body back together, entered in a gravel race on an 80-mile bike race in Vermont, and I unfortunately had a couple falls. I wouldn't really call them crashes because they weren't that severe, but my technique on gravel is not good. So I fell and I re-injured my SI ligament tear, and I had to bail halfway through the race and have somebody pick me up, and I just like sobbed the whole way, like I can still feel myself like in that moment. I was just sobbing. And like I had been working with my coach to I was getting back on the erg, on the indoor rowing machine, for those of you that don't know what that is. And I was, I was working on getting my 2K score down, my 2,000 meter like race, like that's sort of a metric that rowers use to show fitness. And I was doing well. I think I was like in the 650s. World record time, like my best time was like 640. World record time is the 622. Um, and my goal was to like get back into the 640s again. but I was like around 650, which was good considering I was not in that great of a shape. So I had crashed. I was crying, and I just texted my coach. I was like angry. I was sad. I was just crying, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done. And all this time, like, I had also, been I had been pushing off this job opportunity. Somebody that I had coached, at Craftsbury on the water, and someone that I had um, come to adore, just like a wonderful human. I pulled him into an online coaching group that, again, my friend Christine and I formed during COVID for adults who were training for this like big race ahead of the Charles. And so we created this like amazing training program for them. He actually referred me for for the Cleveland Rowing Foundation executive director position. And the first round, I was like, forget it. Like, I'm training for the Olympics. I'm training for Paris. Like, I'm not moving to Cleveland. I can't do that. So I really brushed him off. And then 4 months later, it was actually serendipitous, like right on time. He messaged me again, and I've told him this too. Um, he uh, he was like, I think you should apply for the job. And I was like, okay, like I'm ready. I'm ready to apply. So I applied. I crushed the interview, got the job. Um, was really proud of like, all of that. It was my first like real job, and also like in a leadership position I was excited about. I really struggled mentally and physically in that job. It was a hard job. It was a hard job. I really loved it. I loved the community. I loved the purpose behind it. We did a lot in that job. I mean, I could talk about all that, but I won't go too far deep into it. But I was talking to a former board member of mine last week because we're slated to catch up, and I was like, when I knew it was bad, like when I had to, because I sold my car actually when I moved from Vermont to Cleveland, and I was like, I just want to stay fit. I don't want to like, I don't want to get fat, like I wanted to like force myself to have something hard, like like walking to work, and I put myself in walking distance to work, and I had my bike, so I like wanted to bike and stay active. And even though I couldn't train anymore, I wanted to like put that activity level was important for my mental and physical health. So I oh gosh, where was I going with that? Oh, right. So I told her like one day I was walking to the boathouse. I was a mile away from work, and I was walking down a hill, and I couldn't even walk down the hill. Like I had to walk down the hill backwards. Like my body hurt that bad. Like my joints hurt that bad. My boiling point was when things got bad. So I left Cleveland, and it's September of 24. I'm in Craftsbury. I'm coaching. I wake up one morning. I cannot walk. I actually urinate on myself because I can't get to the bathroom. So I have to use a chair to get to the bathroom to like, so I don't pee all over myself. And I go to the ER, and they, take their images. Basically, I'm in the ER once a month. So September, October, November. And November, I'm getting to the point where I'm getting really frustrated with doctors, and I'm like, you need to admit me. I need to be admitted, and I need to talk to somebody about this. And I could talk all day long about advocacy, because this is the one thing that saved me, is like me and my best friend ChatGPT have just been like running
Oh
running
yeah.
plays with ChatGPT of like how to advocate for myself, and just asking it questions and like asking friends. But so November was the turning point for me. I go to the ER, I get a referral to rheumatology. I did have a rheumatologist in Vermont, and he had put in my mind. He was a very sweet doctor. He had put in my mind that he thought it might be AS. But he said, you have to go to the doctor and get that figured out. So it took November, December, January. It took January until I was formally diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis, and it wasn't until February of 25 that I had my first infusion. And I was giddy. I was
Wow.
giddy after that, because that the first week, um, I I could like jog up some stairs.
It's
Meanwhile,
amazing, isn't it?
in December, I basically was hiding the fact, for I took a job, like a 1 week consulting thing in Texas with a rowing team, high school rowing team. I pretended like I wasn't needing a wheelchair in the airport. Like I got on the plane the day I had like a flare up, and I like needed a wheelchair to get through the airport. And I like the guy was like, "Where are you?" When I got to Texas, he's like, "Where are you?" It's this like very tall English gentleman, like 6'6" or 7, and because he knew that I was 6'3", and he's like, "Where are you? I don't see you." And I thought I was gonna meet him out by the car, and I was like, he won't ever know because I brought my crutches too. Like I'll just spring the crutches on him. He looks down. He's standing right next to me. He's like, "What are you doing down there? Why are you in a wheelchair?" And so the beans were spilled, but that was like, like that was it's
Well,
crazy.
and
And so
this is your identity, right? I mean, like this is
yeah,
your
and
identity of like being an athlete, and
I needed money. Like
yeah,
I needed to
right.
work. Like I want to work. I wanted to keep trying. But that was the turning point mentally for me. I was like, you really like you got to stop trying to work. You have to just focus on healing. So December I like made the decision to stop trying to find a job for a couple months, and just focus on sleeping, eating well. Like I finally had gotten SNAP benefits because I was getting no income. And so by the grace of the universe, I have a place to stay. I'm living, without paying for rent. I have other bills to pay, but like these are the realities too that we face. Like I had a great job, great pay, and then suddenly like that's gone. And I wasn't there were some, I'm going to hesitate to say why I didn't get unemployment, but I didn't get unemployment. Um and that was
Right.
frustrating. And by no fault of my own, and I just like it was so frustrating, like, okay, how am I going to get out of this situation?
Yeah.
um and now actually just recently getting denied disability as well, saying that like you can do other stuff. Meanwhile, I'm clocking it 8+ hours a day navigating healthcare stuff. Throughout all of this, I also found precancerous cells on my cervix. So
Well,
like
and so I went through that too in
it's crazy.
2012, was it?
Yeah.
And my doctor was like, "This has probably been dormant, like your whole." Because I didn't find out I had AS till afterwards, and she's like, "All that was probably something that's been in your system, but your immune system was in such a disaster state that then it
Yeah.
comes." Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. If you're good with this, can we like let's start to wrap it up? But like I think there's a
Yeah.
whole nother story here, and like this is uh like what you are talking about is the extreme, and aside from that, that like you spent your career really in service to the US and your country. Not you weren't in the armed forces, but like I mean you became the picture of what like we look up to as the athlete, right? And you it shattered you. Like not the disease shattered that.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't think that I was capable of being on the Olympic team when I was little, but then like as I was going along, like I really believed it. And when it didn't happen for me, like after working so hard to come back and like clawing my way back from so many injuries,
Yeah.
I was like, I found myself like basically trying to bargain for a different outcome. And it
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
it wasn't happening, and I put my oars down. I was burned out, but I also put my oars down knowing that I did everything that like everything. I exhausted all resources, and people poured
Yeah.
into me as well. And so like that was if nothing else, like I have no regrets. Like I don't have a lot of money coming out of this, but like I do have like a sense of fulfillment that I can't, you can't replace. And so I'm so grateful that I had that chance, you know. And so yeah, it's people ask me like, was it relieving? You know, now you have an answer. It was, in a sense that I now understand how to treat it. But it feels sort of like a birthday you know, after 30, you're like, I'm just a year old. Like it just is now. It's just okay. Like this is what it is. And
Yeah, for sure. This is your story is like super powerful, and I'm,
yeah,
you know, I think the next step is like, how do we unpack too? Like, I more and more believe that the tragedy of this disease is the destruction of the dreams. And this is what you're talking about. So,
yeah,
um, like, first, thank you for sharing everything you've shared. And like,
of
I'm
course.
super excited to do a second episode and like really dig into it and also find out like how we, you know, how we as a community support you stepping forward.
Yeah, of course. And you know, I
Yeah.
think there's beyond the dream dying, like it's like you have to live to see something die, and like there's that. But there's also to your point, the community. Like I'm in this space now where like I really feel like because I've started to manifest a different, you know, we didn't even go into the mental health stuff. That's a whole nother ball game. But like,
Yeah.
um, I think just when you are open to receive, I've noticed some really, really beautiful things start to happen and that are currently happening right now.
Yeah.
Um, like, and 2025 is the year of like shedding. It's the year of the snake. It's the year, you know, I
Yeah.
don't know if you follow the Chinese calendar, but
No, but
like,
I'm a manifester by trade.
yeah. So yeah, so I believe that, but yes, I can't wait to talk to you again. I hope you have a safe flight.
Yeah,
But
thank you
you know,
so much. All
so
right,
thank you.
yeah,
Grateful
let's
for
land
you.
the plane and we'll talk again in a few days to a week or something, I'm sure. But yeah, thank you so much for like sharing, like super vulnerable. I really appreciate you.
Of course, yeah. Looking forward to next time.
SpondyCast was made possible by donations from the Spondylitis Association of America's individual members and our show's corporate sponsor, AbbVie. Since our founding in 1983, the Spondylitis Association of America has been the face, voice, and leading nationwide nonprofit educating, empowering, and advocating for people living with spondyloarthritis. Through our extensive work with patients, the medical community, and partners, we provide information and resources to help people impacted by the disease live better lives and champion research to find a cure.